our latest installment of Breaking the Grade live. However, we're we're doing this from a brand new location, not in Mexico. We're in Northwest Washington D.C. in our new apartment. Um, it's been a bumpy road as of late, not for the business, but more on the personal side. I think a lot of you who are consistent members of this community who are showing up day in and day out, supporting each other, are also supporting me. Know that a couple weeks ago my father passed, so been kind of working through all of that and making the move more full time to Washington D.C. from Mexico. So lots of stuff on my plate when it comes to that, and my family's plate. But we have been getting through it, and it's been wonderful to hear from people in terms of the support for people who've been through losing a parent. Um, Interesting that this show pops up right now because this show is all about rest and all about how founders in the education space need to take a rest at times. And it comes up at an interesting time because I have kind of been resting um, because of losing my father. It forced me to walk away from the business and spend really good time with my family. Um, and it's July 3rd here in the United States. So, this is one of two times out of the year. I always felt when I was running my two companies that uh, it was time to take a break during Christmas and then also for the July 4th holiday. So I'm coming to you live now. Although I am working, I am encouraging everybody else to take a rest. And the reason I also say that is because when you are showing up, when you are posting, when you are testing new lead magnets, when you are refining your funnels, and you're still not getting the traction that you want, sometimes the best thing to do is just to take a break. That when you are doing all of those things, and I live this as a founder, I used to believe that lead generation was just purely a numbers game. And I thought that if I did more, the results would follow. But that's not true. And we're going to go through that in the rest advantage. Okay. And we're going to break down how slowing down and how this worked for one company that we work with. Well, it worked for many companies, but we'll highlight one. How slowing down and getting off the hamster wheel of busy work can lead to a full calendar. So I want to remind everybody that the chat is open. So if you want to kind of chime in for where you are, what your company is in the education space, put your LinkedIn profile. If you want to network with folks, that's good too. Of course, everybody, you feel free to say hi to Ken. Ken is on an island somewhere in the Philippines. He's getting his rest, much deserved rest. Ken, I'm assuming we are live across all of our streams. Hopefully you're still with us, or maybe you've gone to enjoy your private island in the Philippines as well, which is totally cool. Let's get into some of the more important parts of why taking a rest is meaningful for founders in the education space. First of all, I want to make a point. Activity does not equal effectiveness. Activity does not equal effectiveness. Being busy and visible doesn't guarantee the leads. I wish it did, because the majority of the companies I work with would be overflowing with leads, because the companies I work with, they work hard. But that doesn't always just translate to leads, and specifically, it doesn't translate to high quality, high converting leads. So the real goal is not volume, but it's clarity. Another point I want to make, a weak message is actually a lead killer. Hustling harder with a message that is overloaded or confusing or unclear will not convert your audience, and it may burn them out. And I struggle with this myself. I think about it a lot. I just got off a call with a potential client and he was saying, you're all over my algorithm when it comes to LinkedIn. And he's very clear. He's a Dutch gentleman. He said, so I'm very direct. He's like, you're not always my cup of tea. Okay, that's fine. But I am showing up in their algorithm. And he did show up for our meeting and we're moving along very nicely. Um, but sometimes I wonder if we're putting too much out there, if we're talking about the same things. But the people that I follow, Amy Porterfield, Alex Hormozy, what they do tell you is that get your messaging right and stay on message because you never know when a new client will show up and you're going to be talking about what matters to them. And you never know when another client might say, I need to take a pause on this. And then when you show back up in their world or their algorithm and you're still talking about the things that you can help them with. Strategic rest is a tactical reset, not a mindset trick. Pausing is deliberate and it can be a deliberate business strategy. It provides this essential headspace that we all need, that we all should take time to do. And it gives you a chance to evaluate what's working in your content, what's working in your sales process. But if you didn't take that break, you wouldn't take that time. And so when you take that break and you take that time, it allows you to evaluate what's working. Slow seasons are your strategic advantage. And this absolutely was a pill that I had to take and resisted for a very long time, especially when I ran my tutoring company. I would always think the summer months are so slow and parents and the kids are taking a break and they're traveling and the kids don't want to tutor. And believe me, I get it. But I would work so hard to get parents to buy over the summer. I was really never successful. In 10 years of owning that company, I could never get parents to buy the tutoring packages as much as we discounted them over the summer. And then same thing would happen mid-August, late August, parents would come back and say, oh my God, my kids have forgotten everything, or we didn't do this homework packet. We need to rush to do it. And we would. I never got comfortable with the fact that from the middle of June to the middle of August, it would be a dead season. And what I should have gotten comfortable with is the fact that that's my opportunity in a slower sales cycle to not see this as a threat to the business, but this is a critical window of opportunity to pause, to audit, to reposition my messaging so that I can enter the next busy season, which I knew was coming in the fall. It's coming in the fall. It always does. It always comes around with a lead generation machine that was finely tuned. So how can we finely tune your lead generation machine? Well, we can start by doing it on July the 3rd, because most likely if you're in the education space, and that's why you're here, it's going to be a little bit quiet for the next few weeks. So this is going to be one of our faster LinkedIn lives because I'm about to go out the door here, out to my parents' house, spend some time with my mom and my family, and I'm going to practice what I preach in terms of rest. But I want to give you some action items so that you can rest and recharge strategically. Of course, I'll be back next Thursday. John Gamble will be back next Thursday. By the way, I'm having lunch with John tomorrow. I'm excited to see him. But here are some action items. First of all, schedule a content-free week. What does that mean? Block out one full week in your calendar within the next month where you commit to pausing all new outbound content. Does that sound A little bit scary? It does to me. But if you do that, you can take a step back and get perspective and begin to see what you think is working. You can also conduct a clarity audit of, say, your last 10 posts. During that pause, that 1 week pause, review your last 10 pieces of content, whether it be social or emails or whatever you're doing, and ask this question, okay? If a new ideal customer saw only this piece of content, would they understand the specific problem I solve? Would they understand the transformation that occurs when I work with them? And so when you take that audit and you look at those posts, you're able to see where your message is fuzzy or generic, or even worse, filled with jargon. So do that. You can also prune your funnel by walking through it as a buyer. This is kind of an interesting idea in the sense that you can put the shoes on of your buyer and kind of walk through your own process. Click through your own emails, request a demo from your own form. Sometimes I hesitate to do this because then you might see something you don't want and that a form doesn't working, or a connection request wasn't working in your website. And you can experience your sales process from the buyer's perspective. And then you can begin to eliminate, or AKA prune, what's not working, what feels clunky, what feels confusing. You can have a 30-minute real problem conversation. What we know this as inside our community, the 3E community, is the Raise Your Hand campaign. Instead of a sales call, reach out, if you want, to a friendly current client. Reach out to somebody who's trusted in your market, in your industry. Reach out to somebody you don't know, you're getting to know on LinkedIn, and ask them, what is the most pressing challenge on your plate right now? And if you listen well and you take notes, and by the way, have a note taker there, without trying to sell anything, this will give you a chance to reconnect with the reality that your buyer is facing. And by the way, as of January the 20th at high noon here in beautiful Washington, D.C., a new administration took over. And that administration has changed many of the challenges that your buyer was facing, say, on January the 19th. So just by reaching out and saying, what's on your plate right now and how can I help you, you might hear some of the new challenges that your buyers are facing. And that can then be a part of your messaging because you know your solution can help them. And you know I'm not the product person. But when you listen, and when you listen, and when your product is good to great, you're able to take that messaging and then relate it to the problem that you can solve for them through your solution. So we talked through some of the action items: schedule a content-free week, conduct a clarity audit, prune your funnel, and have a 30-minute real problem conversation, AKA do your own Raise Your Hand campaign. If you want to learn more about that, ask me. I'm happy to tell you more about it. And I got one more action item for you. It's a bonus. It's a holiday weekend, so I got a present for you. Simplify your core message down to one sentence. This is really the work that we do when it comes to your headline on LinkedIn. We talk a lot about LinkedIn. I'm not the LinkedIn guy. I'll defend myself in that, but LinkedIn does help. LinkedIn is a great place to test your messaging. Okay. So, based on your audit and that conversation, force yourself to articulate your value proposition in a simple single sentence. And you can use our formula for our headline. I help who, using what method, get which results. I help who, using what method, get which results. This will be your new anchor for all of your messaging going forward. We do this work in the first 10 to 15 minutes when we meet with new cohorts or new companies in our milestone coaching. And that work flows through our 12 weeks, but it starts in the first 10 to 15 minutes. It's not easy. You have 220 characters to play with your headline in LinkedIn. I help who, using what method, get which results. So remember, this LinkedIn Live today is about resting. And I've given you some action items to do when you're resting from your messaging, from your business over the July 4th holiday, or if you can, on your private island somewhere in the Philippines, which you deserve that rest. And I appreciate, again, our community sticking with me, with my family over the last 30 days. Yeah, it's almost exactly 30 days. And the support has been incredible and it's been helpful. So thank you, everybody who sent all the messages about my father. It really helped. It was my chance to take a little bit of an unforced rest, but it gave me new perspective. And now I am encouraging you guys to take a rest, whether you're on a private island or it's July the 3rd where you are. Take a rest and do some of these audits, do some of these conversations, and figure out what can work for you messaging wise going forward. I'm always here to help, except right now I'm going to run out the door and go see my mom and hang out with my family. But still, you can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me through email, jc@joshchernoff.com. You can always find us with a new episode of Breaking the Grade each week. We've got a really cool one coming where I talk about a pair of my glasses. You might have been there. It's a LinkedIn Live that we repurposed because it was so darn good with Anissa. So you know where to find me. But I hope that I find you taking a rest over the next couple of hours, days, maybe even weeks. I'm here to help. Happy July 4th. Appreciate everybody who joined us today. Go out there, enjoy yourselves, and rest.